Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the e-commerce lab by Ecomcy, the place where everything related to Amazon, FBA, private label, and e-commerce. My name is Vincenzo Toscano, your host, founder, and CEO of Ecomcy. And today we bring you another special guest. His name is Christian Bax, and he's one of the partner and head of US operations at Nextoria, which is an amazing M&A advisor firm when it comes to supporting founders when it comes in the commerce space towards the exit, right? So, and that's actually going to be today's topic. We're going to be talking about all the things that you need to consider when it comes to preparing for exit. How's the market looking right now when it comes to exiting? And also, we can even touch about buying actually an e-commerce business. With sometimes, that's also an interesting topic to touch, especially for those founders that already exit and they want to enter the game again. So, Christian, welcome to the show. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well, Vincenzo. Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure, Christian. Thank you for being here. I think when we got introduced by Ivo about what you guys do in Nextoria and also about your role in the company, I was very excited. I think, you guys be in the space for a while now. And I think it's a very interesting topic. When it comes to exiting, especially in the commerce space, it's a hot topic, especially the last 2 years, which I bet you remember with all the crazy aggregator, coming to the space, buying businesses like crazy, having 7, 8 times multiples, crazy times. And, it's something that people nowadays still talk, especially those that miss the boat, as they call it. They couldn't exit. They're still looking for the right advice to exit in today's basically 2023, and that's something that I'm looking forward to discuss with you. However, before we jump into that, which I know people is looking forward to that. I want to touch a little bit about you. I usually like to learn about my guest background and how they go to what they're doing right now. So I'm pretty sure we can learn something useful from that as well. So yeah, tell me a little bit about who is Christian, how you jump into the commerce space, and how you start working with Nextoria. Yeah.
Sure. So, I'm actually an attorney by trade. So, after I
Nice.
went to law school, I also got a MBA as well.
Nice.
And after I got out of school, I actually took a fairly non-traditional route in that I went to work for the government. So, for the state of Florida, I was the head of our entire cannabis regulatory system.
Yeah.
And so I built the Florida's medical marijuana program from nothing into
Wow.
a very large statewide program. And so after that, I left the state, wanted to go do stuff in private practice.
Yeah.
And just in working in, I started as a regulatory lawyer, and I get more and more involved specifically with that industry in M&A, which around 2018, 2019 was really taking off.
Hmm.
And really enjoyed it. Really loved the work. That industry got very, very top heavy, very, very corporate,
Yeah.
because it basically most of the M&A was done by very, very large public companies. But I got to work on a lot of large deals with some very sophisticated buyers and sophisticated sellers as well. And I had the opportunity to shift over to work with Nextoria and do e-commerce, which I saw a lot of parallels between e-commerce and where the cannabis industry was in like 14, 15, where there was huge multiples, very inflated
Yeah.
sales,
Yeah.
lots of people trying to just create assets out of nothing and flip them.
Yeah. I know.
But it normalized, right? And I saw that kind of coming with e-commerce as well, which was this kind of explosive growth. It eventually starts following the laws of economics, just like every other business eventually does as well. And so I got a chance to shift from one, very fast growing, interesting industry to another. And frankly, I like e-commerce more because we get to work with a lot of founder led companies, a lot of people who, build these things out of their garage, out of,
Yeah.
the living rooms with their wives or husbands. And, we get to, because we have a very, very long, we can work with clients for 2 or 3 years without charging a fee in order to get to that exit. We can get to know these people. We're like members of the family, and then we can kind of help them realize their dreams, move on to something else, or maybe start another e-commerce business, which a lot of our clients end up doing as well after they sell. So
Yeah,
that's me in
that's
a
a very
nutshell.
that's a very exciting journey. So thank you for sharing that. Uh, awesome. So now, let's start bringing to the table Nextoria. Because I feel like a lot of people might wonder sometimes, like, why would I need an M&A advisor when it comes to exit? Maybe I can figure out on my own and do it myself. And I think this is a question that I bet you get a lot. And I know, of course, the huge benefit that comes to working with somebody with Nextoria, but I think it would be nice if you can give us, a little bit of insights about what are some of the pros of working with M&A advisors such as Nextoria when you're doing this important decision of going towards an exit? Yeah.
Sure. So, our sellers, we it runs the gamut from people who are this is like their first time they've gone through M&A versus
Yeah.
other people who have done it for multiple times and are serial entrepreneurs. One of the reasons why behind Nextoria starting in the first place is because we saw a disparity in the market between um, the sophistication of the buy side versus the sell side. You had a
Yeah.
lot of investment banking people, very,
Hmm.
very sophisticated financial people moving into the buy side and moving into the aggregators. And the sell side, the people are very. I don't want to create the misapprehension that the people on the sell side aren't sophisticated. They're
Yeah.
very good at building these businesses, but when it comes to the actual transaction of
I
selling,
know.
going through
Yeah.
due diligence, going through the marketing of your business, finding the right buyers, building a market, and then finally negotiating, a lot happens at that 1 yard line before when you think you've got that deal, before you
Mm.
actually have the deal
Mm.
closed.
Yeah. Then it drops. Yeah.
Yeah. It's also very tedious. Like to do an exit correctly and to maximize your company's value. There is a ton of work, and if you shortcut that work, you just the only thing that hurts is the bottom line when you actually try to sell the business. And
Yeah.
so what we find is, we are part analyst, we're part therapist, we're part broker, we're part, just bulldog at the end to make sure
Hmm.
that what you agreed on is actually what the terms that the buyer ends up selling. So,
Yeah.
we can walk through that whole journey. But I'd say at the end of the day, what we do is the sellers are absolutely excellent in order to kind of get on that radar and to be appealing to a buyer. You are excellent at something, and that's usually building a brand and then fulfilling your customers' desires and being able to demonstrate value to the customers.
Yeah.
We are very good at taking your company, positioning it in the best way possible, and then finding the right buyer type, um, and moving that actual business through the sales funnel. That is our core competency and what we do all day, every day.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you said that the perfect thing, which is putting the best face forward of your business, because sometimes you can have an amazing brand and products and everything, but if you don't have all the back end fully clean, like, and I mean your accounts, everything in terms of operations, how you actually even do all the legal things on the back end, and then you put the bad face forward towards these potential buyers, that's when you usually see, which again, that's the gap you guys saw in the market of these amazing people coming from M&A and other space that they had experience taking. I wouldn't say advantage, but just like, you can get cheaper deals because this seller unfortunately didn't know how to put the best face forward. And that's where I think you guys can definitely bring the extra value, which is making sure you're on the side of the seller, making sure they're actually getting what they deserve, right? They're getting then taken advantage by the fine print on the contracts.
Hmm.
Now,
It's true.
so now let's talk about, because something that I find very interesting as well, and people, always want to learn about these things, is how we actually prepare for this moment. Because sometimes you as a founder, your only focus is making sure your branding is on point, talking with suppliers, doing your advertising, but sometimes you don't really have the time to actually make sure the things that sometimes matter, such as having your P&L on point and things like that are done properly, and that's what hurts you towards an exit. So my question for you is, based on all the experience that you already been having all these years working in the space, and being in the middle of these transactions, what are the things that you will say a founder in the commerce space from day one should be keeping their attention towards, that thing that you think can definitely affect a lot when it comes to the exit? Yeah.
So If you're a founder today and you're looking to sell in the future, the things that you should be doing, like right off the bat, is you should have an accountant or at least a bookkeeper that is helping
Mm-hmm.
you keep good accrual based
Mm-hmm.
financials, and that your P&Ls are clean. That you making sure that your IP is, whatever IP you have, is protected.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure that your business organization, your employee relationships, your supplier relationships are all very clean, tidy.
Mm-hmm.
Your contracts are clean, um, and that's really where we come in. Like the first couple meetings that we're going to have with you, it's almost like a boxing sparring partner where
Yeah.
before you go into the fight, we're gonna ask you the same questions, and we're gonna go through sometimes we're even harder than the buyers are, of rooting out any issues that, because whatever we see, a buyer is ultimately going to see when they
Yeah.
go through due diligence. And so
Yeah.
we try to make sure that we can fix anything that we can. If we need a little bit more time, we recommend we take a little bit more time to fix
Nice.
everything that we can. And then the stuff that sometimes like you have a post-COVID dip, but you come up with a way to explain that. So like, yep, everybody had a post-COVID dip. Our dip was less than the market. We beat the market.
Mm.
We're positioned well for the future. Um, that can go through basically anything. A lot of businesses that we see, everybody has a little something that they need to come
Yeah.
up with a good positional statement as to what's going on with their business. That's one
Nice.
of the things we help with.
Good. And when it comes to the commerce space, of course, when we talk about commerce, not only Amazon, we also talk in different channels, D2C, etc. And I was wondering, now that you're in the space and you've been overseeing all these deals, like, is there a specific trend you see investors being more focused towards? And what I mean is, will you say investors right now are more heavily focused on businesses that are more marketplace focused, or having their own presence outside of marketplaces, which is more D2C? What is usually the balance there? What is the hot, right, when it comes to investors looking for that? Yeah.
Well, definitely a couple of things. So one of the interesting things about Nextoria is that you're an international company. We don't just
Nice.
specifically focus on Western Europe and North America,
Hmm.
specifically
Hmm.
the United States. Although obviously those are tremendously huge markets. One of the things we've noticed is a lot of international companies looking to get market share in Western Europe, or specifically in the United States, and they leverage acquisitions of interesting online companies in order to start getting market share in the US. So, supplements, the last year, supplements has been absolutely huge for us. And we'll have
Mm.
international supplement companies that are like, well, we want to have a nutraceutical company in the United
Mm.
States with, a good manufacturing partnerships. And they'll use that acquisition in order to get market share.
I see.
Um, the last year, a macro trend we've seen is with the actual type of buyer. So
Mm.
as the aggregators have kind of declined
Yeah.
and plateaued, the strategic buyers are very hot right now. So
Mm. Okay.
that's one of the things we'll figure out if one of the key differentiators between buyers when you're a seller is like, is your best, if putting your best foot face forward, are you kind of a great company just on a spreadsheet? Like, are you basically an annuity that's just going to spit off cash? And if you are, financial buyer is probably going to be very interested in you, even if you don't have a particularly sexy brand. If you have a very sexy brand and you're filling a very interesting marketing niche, your
Mm.
value is probably greater to a strategic company than to a financial buyer, because the
Mm.
value of your company is probably significantly higher than just what your spreadsheet math is.
Yeah.
Um, and so, with pet, with baby, with supplements, like we have really gone hard after very large, international strategics, because those guys are interested in gobbling up these smaller companies for market share, or to access customers inorganically that they couldn't with their own product offerings.
Nice. That's very interesting. Yeah. So I guess it's
Yeah.
basically right and starting from, let's say you're a European brand and you want to enter the US, right? And starting from scratch, you buy a US supplement brand and you start from, at least instead of level 0, you start from level 3 and you build from there, right? So that's the strategy
Right.
basically.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Good. Now, when it comes to another thing that I'm also seeing the space, and maybe you can share some light here, and this is an interesting trend I have seen, is like we always talk about, yes, there's an opportunity for all these amazing brands that have then a nice spreadsheet, as you say, or have a unique IP, etc. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there is also, I'm seeing some brands that they're struggling. They have a nice product, they have a nice brand, but they're just struggling because unfortunately they don't know how to operate. They're amazing creators in terms of branding product, but they just know how to execute. And the reason why I bring this to the table is because sometimes even if the numbers are not amazing, but you have something really unique, but it's just that you don't know how to operate, and maybe there's also an opportunity there when it comes to exit, right?
Yes, that's right. I'll say that, what the two things really, just to be honest with you and to your listeners, like
Hmm.
when the buyer psychology, when they look at a company, the
Hmm.
first two questions they ask is, are they profitable and are they growing? So if
Hmm.
you're not growing, or your sales are declining, and your margins are flattening, um, that's a negative out the
Yeah, of
gate. Now
course.
you can overcome some of that, and again, buyer psychology. You not being you as a founder and as an operator, not optimizing your business is not necessarily a deal killer, because the buyers look at that and they're like, this
Yeah,
is an
it's an
opportunity,
opportunity. Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah,
right? So I'm getting a discount because me and my people, we can take this company, we can
yeah,
optimize it, and we're going to
exactly.
get the upside.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but that's a careful
A
line you're gonna
tiny.
have to walk.
Yeah.
Right. You have to be like, this is a good company. There's a lot of opportunity, but this is a good company. You don't want to just say that this is a mismanaged company, because if a buyer gets the idea that your company is mismanaged or not optimized, like they might be worried that there might be liabilities or other issues that are deeper down when they
Yeah,
actually dig in.
yeah,
But to your point, what you said is a very good point, which is,
yeah,
don't be afraid if you're not 100% optimized. That's
yeah,
that's a that's an opportunity for
yeah.
buyers.
Yeah, I bring this to the table because sometimes when I go to events and stuff, I definitely meet amazing inventors. They have an amazing product. They're really solving an issue. Like they have IP and everything. It's just that they're more in the mindset of innovating and branding, and all. They don't really know how to maybe do the advertisement. They don't really know how to find the best supplier. They don't really know how to do the other things that make a brand successful. And I feel that sometimes this is a gap in the market for these brands that they have potential, just they need the right operator to come in as a partner and buy them out, you see. And that's why I wanted to bring
Yeah.
this to the table. Yeah. Now, another thing that I also find interesting about what is happening in the exit space is there are different ways of exit, basically strategies when it comes to the deal you close with the buyer, right? So I have seen 100% buyout. Sometimes they do more a split in terms of part of the buy part of the equity, but the founder stays into the equation. So what are the type of deals you are seeing more and more uh, common right now? Will you say some are more 100% buyout, or is more like what I'm seeing personally, which is the founder stays as part of the equation because they have realized that if you take out the brain sometimes of the brand, you could be an amazing operator, but if you don't know how to make the brand reach the vision, you might struggle. So
Yeah, what you described is definitely more and more common. That's part of the fact that it's less risk, because
mhm,
typically what a buyer, like the less the buyer can pay up front and the longer the buyer can keep the existing
mhm,
management team intact, the less risk there is.
mhm,
So that's part of the negotiation. And from the seller side, buyers can ask for that, but then sellers can ask for compensation as well. So
Mm-hmm.
like you want the CEO to stay on for another 18 months. Well, that's going to cost a little extra.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, as a seller, you're not required to sell to anyone on terms that you don't like. So they need to make it worth your while in order for you to agree to the agreement. But yeah, so the terms that you described, so, you know, payment terms that aren't necessarily 100% cash up front, you know, maybe, you know, a certain percentage being deferred down the road, or
Yeah.
some of that percentage being performance based in the future, and then keeping at least some of the key management team intact is quite common. So if you're a seller, specifically, like if you have vendor, like very important vendor relationships, or like it's some way your personal brand is wrapped up with is closely wrapped up with the actual company. So say you have you're a D2C company and you also have a blog and you have a podcast, and like
Mm-hmm.
you've built this amazing customer base that is very loyal, but they're sticky partly because they
Mm-hmm.
like you. You're probably going to be asked to stay on for some period of time
Mm-hmm.
in order to transition out.
I
Um,
see.
yeah,
That's it.
so
And
that's
actually, and that's now that you mentioned that, that brought some idea to my mind, which potentially, if the buyer doesn't want to rely too much on you in the long term, then we could open the debate that if you are the type of business where the brand is your face, you're the person that actually makes the brand, then that could be a red flag, right?
Yes. So that is a it's not a yeah it is a it
Yeah,
may is a little bit of a complication when you're selling. So if you're building a company to sell and you are a component part of your
yeah,
company, and like your face, your name is important to your brand and to
yeah,
customer base, you need to have a plan, and that's
yeah.
also something that we can help with. Um, you need to have a plan for that company's success if
Mm-hmm.
you aren't necessarily a part of it. But I mean, it's totally doable. Like, I mean, people sell YouTube channels, people sell podcasts,
Yeah, it's can.
so it's possible. It's just it's
Yeah,
something that you have to consider.
yeah, of course, of course. And now the other thing I want to bring to the table, which is what I briefly mentioned at the beginning, is we are all talking about exiting, but I bet that maybe you have encountered the scenario where a founder does a successful exit with Nextoria, but maybe then they're they get all the payout and they actually want to buy another business and grow it again with experience and everything. And it will be interesting to learn a little bit about this format as well. So when it comes to buying what is usually the first step as well as a founder? Let's say I have a big exit, right? As a buyer, I guess it's similar. You give me I give you some criteria based on my budget and everything, and then it goes from there, I guess, right? The process. Yeah.
Right. So basically, then, to my understanding, is like you're curious about like what
Yeah.
if you're a buyer, first time buyer, like what are you looking for?
Exactly.
What should you
That's
be
right.
looking for?
Yeah. That's right.
Um, it's really just the mirror image of what we recommend sellers to become. So like for buyers, what you're looking for is a company that's profitable, company that's
Mm-hmm.
growing, company that has a well established, interesting,
Mm-hmm.
unique brand, and something that doesn't have legal liabilities, financial entanglements. That it's a fairly simple company to acquire, pull out, and for them to manage. Um, Frequently, what our buyers, when we're approached by a buyer, they usually have an an industry or a niche that they're interested in, and they're like, we're interested in this type of company in this region of the United States or in this country in Europe. What do you have, or who
Mm-hmm.
do you know that's selling? And then from there, really, if you're in that space and you have a great brand and you have a well managed financial company, then we're gonna give you a call and try to connect you to that buyer.
Nice. And on that specification sheet they might give you, will you say they're becoming more and more specific when it comes to the channels? And what I mean is, have you seen are you seeing some kind of Yeah, some patterns where investors keep mentioning more Amazon, 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 or maybe Walmart, or maybe other channels. Or what are some of the main channels you would say are the hottest when it comes for seeking for those channels? Yeah.
Well, D2C is so what I would say is that what I've noticed over the last 18 months is much less like specific emphasis on
Mm,
FBA. FBA is still popular, but one of the reasons FBA is so popular is because it's simple and it's easy to audit.
yeah.
It's easy to understand, and there's one channel that you have to focus on, whereas omni-channel is more
It's a mess.
complicated.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Yeah, it's more due diligence,
Yeah.
but if we say that somebody, even if you're FBA, but they also have retail partners, like
Hmm.
that's interesting. Our
Hmm.
buyers are interested in that. D2C, I mean, we have a nice stable of leads with people who are on Shopify or just straight D2C. Obviously, Walmart is rising. What I would say is if you're a seller, and like you don't be afraid if you're on multiple channels like that. You just have to focus on FBA. That's not
Okay.
that's not what our experience is, and I would say that's specifically for that has direct correlation to the rise of strategic buyers, because strategic buyers frequently are buying for growth, or they're buying to access new customers. And
Hmm.
so if you have a nice broad appeal across multiple platforms, you're even more appealing to a strategic than just one pipeline on Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you did the
So
heavy lifting, basically. You already opened those channels. Yeah. Yeah.
you're there. Yeah. And if they buy it and they don't like one or two channels that you're involved in, they can call, and they can because now they own your brand. They can
Mm.
they can shift it, and frequently a strategic will take your brand and they'll push it through the pipelines they're in as well. But so to answer your question specifically, I think D2C has definitely become more popular with buyers than it was, say, in 2022. I think more and more people understand the logistics of selling online versus when this was really just exploding 3 years ago. A lot of buyers just didn't, but everybody's more sophisticated now. The industry's started to mature.
Nice, interesting. Now, a final question, so we can conclude today's episode. And I bring this question because actually I had a conversation with this guy, which I thought was an interesting final question to bring. Which is, this guy's an inventor, and his only concern is that by selling the business, he will have to give away all the IP and everything. He made an interesting question, which actually I have never heard around discussing, which is, let's say you have a nice invention, you have patents and everything, and you exit. Have you seen some kind of exit strategy where you keep some kind of royalties or things like that, or is that something really buyers are trying to avoid at all costs?
I haven't seen that
Okay,
specifically, but like I don't. Most of our clients are like existing businesses rather than guys who are kind of
I see.
more focused on inventing. But as an attorney, I would say that your deal structure, if you have just a very clever invention and you don't
Yeah.
want to build a whole business around it,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean that's something that certainly I would advise you to do, which is you find somebody who is interested in licensing your IP, and then they pay you a royalty. I mean
That
that's a
Shark
very
Tank,
common
pretty
thing for
much.
inventors. Exactly. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, and not everybody, you don't just if you have a brilliant idea, it doesn't mean that you have to build an e-commerce company around
Yeah.
it. Like
Yeah.
this
Yeah. There's
patenting and
people that just
licensing
love to do
inventions have been around
inventing,
forever.
not operating. So, yeah, of course.
Vincenzo, you might have a new business channel. Maybe you
Yeah.
start an IP licensing company.
No, it's interesting because I already had a couple of calls with people that they reach out to me. They show me the product is amazing, but they tell me I don't have the time or the experience to operate it. So do you have somebody that would want to license this for me and buy it? And that's why the question came to my mind, because it's an interesting model to explore. So yeah.
Yeah, so if you wanted to actually build that business, I'm sure like you could find they're very sophisticated. You go to any conference in
Mm.
e-commerce, you find people who manage e-commerce companies for other people that manage
That's
the
right.
sites, do everything that goes into those businesses. So I would say you hire a very good IP lawyer and have a very strong,
Yeah.
equity agreement and a very strong royalty package and licensing package, and you can sell that package, or you can just go straight to the source of the money and go find a big company in your industry, like go find Nestle or L'Oreal
Yeah.
or I don't know, whoever, and try to license your IP to them.
Yeah. Amazing. Good. So yeah, very interesting conversation. So thank you very much for being on the show. I think we share a lot of nice strategies and tips. So I know people is gonna find this episode very helpful. Now before we conclude, I want to use the last minute or so you can tell us more how people can reach out. I bet there's a lot of sellers listening and watching this episode that maybe are on that journey toward exiting or maybe buying a business. So how people can reach out to you and get in touch with you and the team Nextoria. Yeah.
Sure. So our website is nextoria.com, and you can get me at christian@nextoria.com. It's my email address. And we are venture backed and we are global, which means that you can work with us anywhere in the world. We charge you nothing, and we have no problem working with you for several years. Even if you're just kind of interested in selling, but you're
Mhm.
not quite there, we are happy to work with you over a long timeline in order to exit. That's what we do. um, and we do nothing but eat, sleep, and breathe getting good deals for our clients and helping
Nice.
people exit and
Good.
go on to big great things in the future. So
Yeah.
we'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, awesome, Christian. I'm gonna make sure to put all the information down in the description for everybody to see. And yes, I want to thank you once more for your time and being on the show. And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have you in the future to keep exploring how the exit space has been evolving. So yeah, can wait.
Thanks so much for having me, Vincenzo. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure, Christian. See you to the next one. Bye bye.